welcome back to Brew Tap Cast. I am Tap here for our last pints and previews for Tales of Aria, Flesh and Blood, the new set that will be dropping this month later, this September. We have the first world premiere in Vegas this Saturday, so that is going on at a calling there. People are going to be opening those. We'll probably see the foil. We'll see the rest of the cards if they're not all out there. So that's pretty exciting. But this is the last little roundup. And yeah, so I think we just jump right into these cards. There's a couple of really sweet cards, so let's just jump right into them. All right, here we are. We have our first three come from Pierre over at the French channel. I believe it translates to Eye of Ophidia. I don't actually know. I can't read French, but we have a couple pieces of equipment. The common equipment looks like your draft slash sealed equipment for one for each of the elements. So our first one is Plume of Evergrowth. This is an instant. It's an Earth equipment head, 0 defense. So none of these defend for anything, but they all have abilities that are somewhat consistent with their elemental flavor, as well as kind of neat. So this one says instant, pay 3 resources, destroy Plume of Evergrowth, return target Earth action card or Earth instant card from your graveyard to your hand. So really it's a way to rebuy your best threat in limited. Like if this is something like whether you just had this big haymaker that you slammed in, maybe you got a majestic or a nice rare, you slam it down, you attack with it, boom, it's over. But you want to get it back, this can get you that back. So it's nice to hold on to for the entire game. Or let's say you end up blocking with a card you really want to get back, you can actually use this to get it back. And you're trading a card for a card, so yes, this is an onboard resource, and you're ditching it. It's one use. But if you have blue, you can pitch a blue and sort of get a different card back. So you don't really go down on cards per se, because you're actually just trading a card for your hand for one in your graveyard if you have a blue pitch, and then dunking this guy in the graveyard. So ultimately, you're not really down. You just lose the ability to do it later. So you really want to make sure you time it out well. You don't want to have to pitch multiple cards to it, and you want to get back something that is going to really make an impact. So that's really why you want to take like your biggest threat and use that. Obviously, you're in limited, you're going to have not as many threats. They're going to be spaced out in your deck, so you want to not just, save it, for only this one card, but you might have to use it just to make something else work. But I think it's pretty cool. I think it'll be pretty powerful and limited. The next one is Coat of Frost. This is an ice equipment chest. Defends for 0 as well. It says action, destroy Coat of Frost, create a Frostbite token under target hero's control. Go again. Love it. So in flavor of our ice, we get to give someone a Frostbite token. And I think that's great. I mean, we really haven't seen how powerful these are in massive numbers, but we know that one resource in limited is very painful to have to pay an extra one. So like they're gonna feel that. Your opponent will feel that. Unless they're going like super cheap and like all these elemental or lightning attacks that are all like really low cost and just like chip in with a lot of go again and stuff. This is gonna matter. Like people, you don't really have like huge hands in limited. You're gonna have 4 card hands. You probably gonna have to block some. You might have an arsenal. So resources are definitely limited in limited. Huh, look at that. That's funny. So I think this can really be powerful, and I really dig it in limited. I don't think any of these are going to really see constructed play just because there's more powerful things out there and more powerful cards you can use that these don't necessarily synergize well with. But I think this is really cool. The last one is Mark of Lightning. This is the Lightning Equipment Arms. This is definitely not as exciting as the other two, just because it for me, it doesn't ring the right kind of bells for. So it says a Lightning Equipment Arms, as we said, defense for 0. Whenever a lightning or elemental attack you control is defended by a card from hand, you may destroy Mark of Lightning. If you do, the attack deals 1 damage to defending hero. So a lot of the lightning cards that we saw, they didn't actually require you to hit to have something happen. Most of them were, if you fuse, the thing happens. So yes, this is a great way to maybe poke in for some damage later in the game. Maybe life totals are very low, that kind of thing. But this itself isn't really going to activate your entire deck, right? This doesn't do a lot. And not like the other ones are like activating your entire deck or anything, but they're doing something proactive, whereas this is just poking for maximum of really 1 damage. Yes, there's maybe ways that you can up it, but for the most part, 1 damage here isn't going to matter as much. You'd rather have your big threat back so you can maybe get in for a big slam or something like that, or challenge your opponent. Maybe you throw out that Coat of Frost when you want to have a power turn, and you're like, cool, I want to keep all these cards in my hand. I can't block, and I want to make it less damaging, so you can pop your Frost Cloak and then make them do something. They have to pay more to do something. Whereas this one's like, cool, I'm just going to poke you for 1 damage. So it's cool, but it's not that cool. So meh on that one. All right, on to our next one. This is from Fab Foundry. This is Flicker Wisp. Now this this is something that's a little bit more exciting. So this is a Majestic. It is a yellow pitch, 0 cost, lightning fusion, elemental runeblade action, defense for 2. It says, if Flicker Wisp was fused until the end of turn, action card effects you control that deal arcane damage instead deal that much damage +1. This says deal 1 arcane damage to target hero, go again. So essentially, yes, this is exciting. This is not real. Actually, I lied. This is not exciting if you don't fuse. Dealing 1 arcane damage for 1 card, that's not worth a card. That is not worth a card. That's worth a rune chant, which is not really a full card, ultimately. Like, there were some blue read to rune chants used in different decks, but it was really for the pitch value, not so much for the rune chant creation. This, if you can't fuse, is probably not really that worth it. If you fuse it, it turns on this quite a powerful effect. It itself now deals 2 damage. And then the cards that we're going to go into after this really work well and synergize with this very well. So there's definitely a way to make this like shine. But if you can't fuse it, I don't think it's really worth playing. I don't think it's going to be very exciting. It's just like, boop, poking for 1 arcane damage. Unless you like really need to have arcane damage for some reason. And there's times where that might be needed, but not dire straits. So if you can't fuse it, probably not worth playing. All right. On to the next one, we have Rites of Lightning. This is where we start to go crazy. So following, sorry, I skipped one. We'll do Arcanic Shockwave first. These are all from Dice Commando. You can check them out. They had a nice little breakdown of their stuff. So Arcanic Shockwave, this is a 0 cost. This is the red pitch version at common. Elemental Runeblade attack action. 4 power, 3 defense with lightning fusion. When you attack with Arcanic Shockwave, it was fused. Deal 1 damage to target hero. So, fun thing. You can choose to actually shoot other heroes if you're playing like UPF or something like that. But this is quite powerful because we look back at Flicker Wisp and some other cards we're going to see later. This does amplify that. That makes it nice. If you can really sort of keep the beats going and keep these arcane damage, flying around, adding 1 to them, then it can become very powerful. And this is a nice card. It's a free attack. I mean, I'm assuming it's a cycle. So maybe you don't really want to play the yellow and the blue one because 3 and 2 damage aren't that great. Maybe 3 is good. It costs a full card, but ultimately it's not because it's kind of not really a special breakpoint. It's really when you go above 3. Because yes, there are a lot of cards in this set that are going to block for 2, but likely there's not as many as you would hope for. And so I think 4 is really want to be. So I think probably this is the best one to see play just because of how it's set up and that breakpoint that it has. But I think it's a good card. I think it goes well with Flicker Wisp as well as some of the other cards we're going to see right now. All right, next one we have Rites of Lightning. This is a red pitch, 1 cost, 4 power, 3 defense, rare, elemental roommate action, attack. Also lightning fusion. All these are lightning fusions. It says when you attack with Rites of Lightning, if it was fused, deal 1 arcane damage to target hero. If you have dealt arcane damage this turn, Rites of Lightning gains go again. So before we move on, or before we talk about the card, I know that we had something very similar to this that was meet and greet, whereas if you dealt or deal arcane damage, it gains go again. This one just says if you have dealt arcane damage. So my assumption is either they changed the language and this means the same thing as what meet and greet did, and the action that you have when you fuse is going to take care of that. I mean, obviously it's not going to gain go again after the fact in a separate link or something like that in the combat chain because it's already passed, right? It's already resolved. You can't get that action point. But by the time the card resolves, you would have been able to get go again. So I believe they just changed the language. So maybe when you fuse, that's when, boom, the arcane damage goes on the stack and then you have to deal with it. Or goes on the chain, you have to deal with it. So that's what I'm thinking. So I do believe this gives itself go again. Kind of sensible. Again, works well with Flicker Wisp, works well with other things that can pump up arcane, that kind of stuff. So I think it's a powerful card. Yes, it costs 1, so not trivial. The red one's obviously the best one out of the pack just because you can keep that breakpoint there. That said, the other ones might be still good, the 3 and 2 power ones, if it is a cycle, because then you can have that arcane damage coming in, and that's kind of a big deal. If you can't fuse them, even the red one's not all that great. It's just kind of an okay attack. At least it does block for 3. So all in all, not too bad, but could be more exciting. All right, this one, it looks like it's not exciting, but I think it actually is pretty cool card. So this is Ball Lightning. This is a red pitch, 0 cost, 3 attack, lightning action attack, defense for 0. That's right, folks. An attack card that defends for 0. It says Whenever a lightning or elemental action card would deal damage to this combat chain, instead it deals that much damage +1. Go again. So just take that in with a 0 defense right now. Now, my assumption this was due to them tweaking and twiddling and fiddling with this, because this card is actually kind of exciting, in my opinion. It's free. Only costs you a card. Built in, go again. 3, yes, obviously 3 is not as good as 4, and 4 is like the sort of entry point of like, cool, it's going to cost at least 1 card. This could still cost a card and still get in for damage if it's a 2 defense that's being played against it. But it buffs things, and that's what's exciting. I mean, it has to be able to hit, so that's one thing. Like, if you block this for 3, you're going to block out completely. If you block it for 2, then you're going to get hit by 2. So it has to actually, any attack, and this one included, has to hit first to do an extra point of damage. So in that regard, it's not super great. But the fact that you can throw this out, put that thing on the chain, like boom, anything you do this combat chain that you hit with gets a +1 is actually quite good. And that's probably why they took off that defense, because they're exploring space of like, how can they mess with the parameters of these cards to make them more fun, different, exciting, powerful, but also have a drawback. Like, this is a drawback because this is not an item, an instant, or anything like that can't block. It's literally an attack action card that can't. I mean, you could block with it, but it's not going to do anything. So in that regard, it's not super powerful, or there's a drawback. I think it's pretty cool, and it works really well with our previous cards, as well as this last card, which is, whoo, boy, is it a doozy. We have Sting of Sorcery. So this is a blue pitch, 0 cost, and majestic Runeblade action aura. Can defend for 2. It says, go again, attack action cards you control gain. When you attack with this, deal 1 arcane damage to target hero. At the beginning of your end phase, destroy Sting of Sorcery. So on its face, it's a single turn action thing. You throw it down for free. Anytime you attack with something, doesn't matter what the elemental thing is, anything. It could be literally any attack card. Adds on, deals 1 arcane damage to a hero. So this is where these ball lightnings get exciting, especially when you have Flicker Wisp on. So you turn Flicker Wisp, like you throw a Flicker Wisp down, you throw this down, then the ball lightnings, I know this is magical land, magical Christmas land, you have to have this big setup, but it could be pretty cool because you have Flicker Wisp, you have this guy, so you have to have 2 cards. You got some ball lightnings and maybe some other cards, things that can have go again. The ball lightnings are going to plus up possibilities of damage hitting, which I believe includes this arcane because it is coming from the card, and that's what ball lightning talks about. Is it talks about if a card was to deal damage, and arcane damage is a type of damage, it will deal 2. So they have to block out 1. They can still just block out 1 and not get that second one. But if they can't, and in a limited environment, not this is going to be a limited card, limited environment, or maybe a place where arcane barrier is not as plentiful, that can be pretty big deal. So like the Flicker Wisp itself is saying, hey, actually it's going to deal 2 damage. So now if you have Flicker Wisp down, each of those ball lightnings is going to deal, each attack is going to deal 1 plus 1, so 2. And then if it hits, it goes up to a 3rd one. So it can be pretty brutal. That's all arcane damage. So it's very, very interesting. So yes, this is like very highly specific card interactions and things like that. But I'm sure that we don't have to have the ball lightnings as the example card. I just think those are very exciting because they're free, they give go again, and they have a buff. Like if you play a second one that buffs up again, then that can just be really, really quite exciting. So like being able to like not be able to prevent 4 arcane damage or like, you know, this is a very large amount of arcane damage coming in, like a Kano sized, a mini Kano sized amount of arcane damage with this magical Christmas land setup. So kind of neat. I think these cards were really cool way to finish off the spoiler season. I think they're kind of nice that they show like these like other little sets of combos that you can do and these cards that work well together, whether in limited or in constructed or blitz or things like that. But so that does it for our spoiler cards. Now there were some the 3 blitz decks were spoiled, and I suggest just go and watch the creators' videos. They're going to have a lot better quality on those pictures than I could get. It's kind of why I didn't want to do it. It was really hard to get photos that were high quality, and there's quite a lot of cards, and it's some of them maybe are very quick analysis, other ones maybe are going a little bit deeper, but they're definitely not the big bangers of the set like these Majestics, things like that. Not that the comments don't matter at all, but with the quality of the photos, didn't end up doing them. I'm sure we're probably going to do a budget upgrade of those decks, those blitz decks, so we'll we'll definitely get our hands on them. We'll talk about those cards. We'll do something with them. So in that regard, I don't feel bad of not going through each of those cards. And I'm sure part of the excitement is to get a deck yourself and open up and see those new cards. So I think they're a really great way to get into Blitz. In the past, they've been very well matched, and they've shown off the mechanics of the sets and the heroes, and so it's a really nice way to sort of intro yourself into a particular hero to see what you like. The Monarch ones were a ball. I really enjoyed them. So I heavily incentivize you to go get those. And then, yeah, watch The Calling in Las Vegas on Saturday this weekend. I don't know what time coverage starts, but it's going to be playing Tales of Aria. So definitely very excited for that. If you're looking to see Tales of Aria, I'm sure the Fable will be open and seen on camera. So we don't know what it is. I'm hoping it's some cool elemental, fun, awesome thing, but we'll have to wait and see. But that'll be all for this Pints and Previews, and that'll be all for this spoiler season right now. So no idea what the next set, no idea when the next set is, but for right now, that's it for Pints Previews. Just want to say thank you for joining us, and cheers.